I welcome you everyone, and this is our fifth meetup for CNCF Kolkata Kubernetes group, and along with three people from Calcutta. I started this group in last year, and we are also now the part of official CNCF group. It is not that the independently running, it is purely the part of the official CNCF, and it is a tremendous journey from last couple of months to involve in the ecosystem, to understand about that. And it is my privilege to welcome you again all, and we have an awesome speaker today. Luckily, like I would like to say, the power of social media I found, because the guy who is going to speak, Mr. Nischay Goyal, he is also he's a batchmate of mine. We were never met even our college days, but on LinkedIn, after passing out after a couple of years, we met, and he is doing his awesome job, and he's a SRE person. He would like to share his thoughts about the certification as a Kubernetes in the high demand, and where the certification will add value. So I would like to hand over to Mr. Nischay Goyal to take this forward, and feel free to drop your questions, and in the chat window we will cover at the end. Nischay, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Chirag for welcoming me. Thank you. As Chirag mentioned, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. As over the weekend, I'm assuming that everybody everybody might be enjoying the weekend. So we thought that it'd be a good time to have it over the weekend to run this session. So yeah, I would like to say thanks to CNCF Kolkata group for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to come and share my experiences on Kubernetes certifications. So I thought, why don't we, because when I was doing the certifications, I found it a bit difficult. I was going on various forums to try and see that how I can do it. So I thought, why don't I give a go and let's share our experience. So first of all, welcome and thanks, Chirag. So let me know if you can see my screen. I'm just going to share it now. 1 second. Just a minute. Yep, I hope you guys can see my screen now.
Not yet, Nischay. Yeah, it is loading, and yes, I am able to see your screen. I believe, can other confirm in the chat if everyone is able to see his presentation? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks guys. Okay, Nischay, go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. So yeah, so as we know that today we are covering CKAD and CKA preparation and tips. So as CKAD and CKA stands for Certified Kubernetes Application Developer, and CKA stands for Certified Kubernetes Administrator. So that's what we're gonna cover today. So a bit about me before I actually start this bit. So I'm Nischay Goyal, working as a senior DevOps engineer, and in parallel I run a meetup over here in London as well, as I'm based out of London. And was initially from India, where I have a London SRE meetup and then a few certifications in the cloud world in Kubernetes. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or a meetup or email ID, wherever you guys think. So please reach out to me if in case of any queries, or feel free to send a connection request. Yeah. So first of all, would like to cover that everybody thinks that, okay, we can do this. But first, the motive comes as why we are doing the certifications, why Kubernetes certifications are important today. So that's the first bit which we should be thinking about before anybody comes and say that we should do this. So that's the first question we should ask ourselves. So as you know that CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, where we have open source projects in that, like they have graduated incubating projects to build reliable ecosystems, to be honest, for the scalable world. And Kubernetes is one of them, the graduated projects in the open source world, as I'm sure that most of you in your world have heard about Kubernetes in one or some other way. So yeah, in that they have CKA and CKAD. CKA is mainly for the administrator side, where you are like basically who are on the operation side, where you have to manage your clusters. You need to create your clusters for the teams, like data, disaster recovery, backing up. So it's totally on the operation side of the guys. right? Operation from who manages the infrastructure. On the another side, we have application developer certification as well, which is mainly they expect you that you will build the applications, you can deploy the application Kubernetes. So basically, it's like cloud native application you are going to build, because one of the main power comes with Kubernetes is, as you know, that these days any cloud provider, let's say Google, they have a GKE. You go with Azure, they have AKS, or same way with AWS or Alibaba Cloud. So everyone has their managed Kubernetes service, and which makes us to build cloud agnostic and cloud native applications, so that we are not depending on any particular cloud provider. We are saying that whatever we are building, it could be on premises, it could be private cloud, it could be public cloud. We can easily port our applications by YAMLs, by config as a code on any of the platforms. Yep. And so that's the main reason why Kubernetes is becoming so important. And I don't think so I'll have to give a history about that, about Kubernetes, but feel free to ask. And another why it's important is that it's important to get recognized, as even I was working on Kubernetes from last couple of years, but I never thought that I should go and give a try. But I can say that I was Kubernetes developer or Kubernetes administrator, but still, if you have that like a stamp, or you can say that, you can probably say that, okay, I'm a certified Kubernetes application developer, or I'm a certified Kubernetes application as an administrator. Because it's like a industry standard certification, which, because if somebody hears about it, they know that why that certification is important. It's not easy to crack that certification. If somebody have done that certification, it means there's a good thing which you always carry with it, that okay, he's gone through that skills, he already covered those skills. So that's why it's always important to get recognized. And this only not you can this not only help you to validate your taste of personal knowledge, but also plays an important role in your personal career plan. If you ask me personally, like when I completed these certifications in my organization, a lot of people have reached out to me. They started asking how to do it, because there's one more certification which is not for the developers but for the service providers, CKASP as well. It's not the scope for today, which companies like various organizations are trying to get that. And for to get that certification as well, they need certified developers or administrators, a certain number of developers and administrators who CNCF certified in the organization itself, before any company or organization can go and have it for the CKSP as a certified community service provider. Because they also want to get recognized. They also want themselves to be member of CNCF on either a silver or golden or that kind of members. If you go to the CNCF project, you can probably see that what are various projects over there and what are various providers. So I hope that's why the certified Kubernetes administrator are important. And just one thing I want to go before we actually go ahead and start on all the tips and everything. So this is a small link which I created, like a certification poll, you can say. So this is the link which I'll be sharing. 1 second, I'll put it over the chat. Just give me a minute. Yep, I think just check if you can open this. Yeah, I can see that screen. So this is a certification poll link which I posted, and the main purpose of, I just want to understand that whether people are already CK certified or CKAD certified, or you're planning to appear for CK. Just give us an idea that whether we are mainly looking for the administrator side or whether we are mainly looking for the development side. I'll probably check the poll in the end as well to tackle these questions on this specific area, but just want to understand on that area. So please go ahead and just, it's a multiple option, choose and just vote it. So in the end, probably we'll check the results as well, as anybody can see the results. Let me know if you can access that link in the chat, and if you face any problem, please feel free to post over there. Okay, so firstly, we'll start with the Certified Kubernetes Application Developer curriculum. So this is, so right now, recently 1.18, as in, so one important bit, okay. The exam is a hands-on exam. This is not MCQ based. Yeah, so just I'll cover that later, why, what is that in exam and all those bits. But just to know that it's when you will be working with the Kubernetes clusters, it will be 1.18, because recently it has been moved. So make sure when we are appearing, because there are a lot of changes which happen from 1.17 to 1.18 if you specifically talk about kubectl CLI. So just I want to highlight that point. In CKAD, as I told, it's basically on the development side. So it mainly talks about all the deployment objects, like all the YAML bits, where if you ask me that I need to deploy an application, what all the things I need to do for the Kubernetes. So that's what they have covered over here. So the main part which like holds most of the percentage in the questions, like 20% is a pod design, that how you design a pod, whether it's basically normal pod, init container pod. So what kind of pods you are running. So it depends on the pod YAMLs. And then when we come to the state persistent, 8%, state persistent is something like volumes or PV or PVCs, persistent volume claim and persistent volumes. So this mainly deals with that. You can see something like to create PVs, to create PVCs, attach it to the pods or the deployments, kind of those. So that's where mainly covers the state persistent. And after that, 10% is by multi-container pods. I think multi-container pods is something where if you go to the kubernetes.io, the official documentation of Kubernetes, you probably see there are three, like they cover the design patterns in multi-container pods, whether is it adapter based. So there are three patterns in that, which pattern you're bringing, whether you want to add a multi-container pod for the logging purpose to, let's say, transform some output, or you want to change something when the request is incoming, or you want to share, like a very typical example of Nginx and your normal web server, Nginx and your file system, where you want to expose a file on the web server to share a volumes, kind of that. So multi-container pods is something just run multiple pods. Core concepts, moving on to core concepts, which is 13%, is just very basics about Kubernetes and how you deal with it. One second, I'll probably go to the link. One second. Let's open that link itself, and I need to share my screen again. Yep. So if I go to the official curriculum 1.18, see over here is core concepts, where usually 13%, it's a basic API primitives, Kubernetes, very basic Kubernetes primitives. Like if somebody comes and asks, okay, what is pod, how you create a pod, how you create a deployment, or let's say if somebody comes and asks you how many deployments are running at the moment, how many pods are running, it's kind of that very basic, like how you define, how you describe the, let's say for any pod is running in the cluster, they will ask you how to describe that pod. Sorry. Yep. So basically that is the core concepts. And then servicing and networking. This is one area where I would say that generally we, as being a developer, we don't deal with this area. This is where we should spend some more time, because it involves some networking policies, your ingress policies, the incoming traffic to the Kubernetes, and the egress policies, the outgoing traffic. So this is something which we should spend some more time to understand how you can implement that only this specific pod can talk to this specific pod, or this specific pod can only talk to my let's say any third-party API, or like I would say a firewall, or like network security policies, you can put it in that manner. So this is one of the main important object of the Kubernetes, where we usually don't get time, but spend time on that. Services is something, this is a way of Kubernetes to expose your deployment. Basically, it's the IP tables in the end, but it's a wrapper on top of that. So you don't need to understand what IP tables and all those bits, how it's run. But in the end, if you deployed a pod and you want to access it, you can access it via service. And they'll cover, probably can ask you to create, as you know, there are three types of services, where you have cluster IP, node port, or the load balancer. as load balancer is mainly with the cloud side, but we usually deal with the cluster IP and node port service. So that's about it. We should be able to know how to create it. Observability point of view, 18%, yes. They will ask you, okay, there's a pod running. Okay, how will you debug that pod? You should know that, okay, how to check the logs, how to see what are the errors. You should be able to separate the warnings, and kind of that questions. Like you should know. This is mainly about you've deployed something. Okay, now how you observe it. Like if any error is coming, like if we are not running in a container, we know that we can see it on the terminal, but you know should be familiar how to check the logs, how you go inside a pod, how to check various conditions, like basically debugging all that bit. And in the end, it comes a configuration 18%. So configuration is something like config maps or security, like this one of the objectives config map, or you create a secret or service accounts. So kind of that on the configuration part side. It's let's say if you're using any sensitive information, probably you'll be looking to create it in a secret. So that's Kubernetes object. Or if you're looking to have a config map for your Java application, let's say like application.xml, you'll probably put it in a config map. And so that's to decide for us whether if you have any, let's say, Nginx container is running it, and if I want to mount that as a config map, so it will be config map. And if there's any password in that, let's say to my any of the server, I'll probably use it as a security context from a security perspective. And service accounts, as we know that we usually give in Kubernetes, there's a concept of service accounts as well. So probably you can give that service account access that, okay, you can talk to this pod and we can actually use it, service account in a pod configuration itself. Yeah. So this mainly broadly covers the curriculum, what is we have in CKAD, and make sure you, for me, if you ask me, this is the best place to cover, and just come here and check that, okay, have you covered every topic or not? Believe me, there's nothing which gonna come out of this, mainly about these bets, and I think I've covered most of them. Like, let's you can see, one thing which I want to add, which I probably missed over here, is in development, you should be familiar with jobs and cron jobs as well. Because if you ask me, daily we usually do pods, deployments, services, or kind of these bets, networking, not the jobs or the cron jobs. So that is something which you should also spend some time. It'll come in the pod design because that is a 20%. So make sure you cover that. Like you create some pods, you create some jobs, you create some cron jobs. Basically, these are the Kubernetes objects. So deal with it. I hope everybody's able. There's no worry in that. Okay, and probably I'll go and check on. Okay, let's move to the CK curriculum now. So that was mainly for the CKAD, where I would say for the developers working as a developer. If you're working, it was mainly for the developers. You go and you can easily deploy your application. And let's say if you want to try it straight away, I would say go on to any cloud provider where you can get a managed service, Kubernetes service, and go and deploy it. Simple. You don't need to create your own cluster. I would say don't spend time on that if you're looking for CKAD. Use any already built managed Kubernetes cluster, I would say. So next is CKA curriculum. I would say this is more broader. And if somebody have already done CKAD, I would say most of the concepts are already covered in CKA. Like if you check the core concepts, which is 19%, and then the networking and the application lifecycle management. So almost 35%, I would say, the curriculum is from the CKAD. I personally completed CKAD first, and then I appeared for CKA. And after clearing appearing for CKAD, CKA looks a bit easy to me. But usually people do it other way. They appear for CKA because they're coming from the operations background. But I was being from the development background, so I appeared for CKAD first, and then moved to CKA. So it's up to your choice. You can, but most 30 to 40% they overlap with each other. Yeah. So on the CK curriculum, the extra bets which gonna come as scheduling, which is 5%. So scheduling is something which is like, you should be able to understand the architecture of Kubernetes, that these are the primary components, that the API server is the brain of this. There's a etcd, which is like a database, like maintaining the state of the cluster, or the kubelet, or kube API, kube proxy. So the various components like managers should be able to understand what is the purpose of each. What are, in the end, these are all wrappers which have been created. So it's very important to understand what are the basics of each wrapper, that what is the purpose of a scheduler. So scheduler is one of that, which the name itself says that scheduler is something, okay, the role is only to schedule something. There are 10 nodes in the pool. Okay, the scheduler says, okay, go and set schedule on in this. Done. That's scheduling. You can use multiple schedulers in Kubernetes. Probably can cover that. Logging and monitoring, you've already seen that. Storage, I think it's same PV and PVCs. There's nothing more than that. Application lifecycle management, again, the same bit, but as in the previous one, we covered it separately, like multi-container core concepts, all these things separately. Here, it comes all together as a 8% in application lifecycle management, where they expect you should be able to do a deployment. So when I say deployment, a deployment object, and you can easily roll out and roll back that deployment. You can see the history. So if mainly familiar with the kubectl library over here. Here comes interesting bit is the troubleshooting. Because if you're creating a cluster, if you have created a cluster in CK, so the part of the CK is you should be able to create a cluster and maintain it. So if something is not working because we had seen the pods are not getting deployed, or suddenly there's a problem in the cluster, you should be able to troubleshoot it. That's the most important bit. Because anybody can create a cluster. Given we have such tools these days, let's say a KubeADM is one of them, but how you would troubleshoot it? For that, you should be able to understand the architecture. So that's why I'm again emphasizing architecture of Kubernetes is very important to understand. If there's a problem in, let's say, connecting to the API itself, it means the kube API server is not working. Or let's say, if you're not able to see the state of the cluster, it means there's a problem in the etcd. Or if the pods are not getting scheduled, problem in scheduling. So try to understand what is the architecture. Try to understand what is the function of each component. If this component, and most important bit, why that component is there. Because again, same question, I'm doing this. Okay, why I'm doing this? Why you have such component over there? So important to understand. Go to Google, check about each component, read few articles, I would say. But most important, understand why that component is there. Because there's a reason that component has been put over there. It will help you to troubleshoot any cluster. It could be security, it could be certificates, it could be anything. So into that. Moving on to networking. Networking, I would say 11% out of that, 5 to 6% is from CKAD, where you have egress policies or ingress policies. Few extra bits which add to the networking over here is they expect you to configure a network as well for the cluster, for the nodes as well. That, okay, this is the networking which is running behind it. Okay, am I using Weave, or am I using any other networking to CNM, basically container networking interface. So the various networking interface which are present. If you go to Kubernetes.io, you can see there's Calico, there's Canal, and Weave. A lot of other are present. So they expect you to at least be familiar with one of them. I would say Weave is one of them. You can say because it's easy. But again, the concept behind the CNI. Because CNI in the end is an interface, but there are certain requirements which they expect. You can do it easily, but without using. You can do it without using that one of the plugins, but it'll take you a lot more time. That's why they have created interfaces which can easily be pluggable into any of the cluster. And based on the requirements, they expect you. Okay, if they can expect you given a situation which plugin you will use. If you want IP filtering, because just to add on this, there are plugins, CNI plugins, which don't support egress or ingress networking policies. But on the other hand, they are which support these. So just be familiar, read about what are the various features or in all the CNI plugins. Again, cluster maintenance and troubleshooting, something which overlaps with each other. as I mentioned earlier, I think I've covered most of the cluster maintenance as well. Could be one thing I could say in cluster maintenance is something. I think I heard it first time. There's a concept of static pods, I guess. So go through that for sure. What are static pods? Because that is a base when you create and run a Kubernetes cluster. Any kube system components which are running are actually static pods. It's an interesting topic. Read about it. It'll really help you for knowledge purpose as well. And going on to security, 12%. Security is like maintaining end-to-end, I would say, like proper trusted network, proper trusted from one place to another. The traffic should be encrypted. They expect you like you're using a TLS certificates over here for any cluster to cluster, for any component to component. Let's say API server is talking to etcd, or etcd is talking to KPI server is talking to scheduler, or anybody else. They expect all those communication happen as an encrypted bit. So be familiar that what a cluster issue, how you generate a certificate. Let's say if the certificate is expired, how you regenerate it. I think the guys from the operation side will be easily able to pick up this bit. But if somebody from a development perspective is trying to go aiming for CKA, this is one area it'll take some time for you to like create certificates, renew it, what a cluster issuer, what is a cluster sign, as in the certificate issuer, signer, and all those bits, what is a root chain, and all those bits. Go through that. That is one bit where if you're coming from development background, it'll take some time for you to understand, because for you it will be totally new. I'm expecting to do that. And here comes the last interesting topic: installation, configuration, and validation, 12%. In the exam, please expect you will create a Kubernetes cluster as well. They'll expect it. They'll say that, okay, go ahead and create a Kubernetes cluster. Probably by using any of the tools. I had seen Kuberium as well. But before you create a cluster, I think anybody from Kubernetes might have heard about Kelsey Hightower. There's a GitHub repo as well, the hard way. Kelsey had the Kubernetes is a hard way, because that is something which goes through each component. So when you're trying to understand, it will not have any automation. You're manually generating certificates, you're manually configuring the CNI, you're manually configuring the container runtime engine. You're doing everything. It'll take some time for the Kubernetes hard way, but I highly suggest go through that. Kelsey Hightower, the Kubernetes hard way. That is the heart of Kubernetes, as in if somebody is really get into the operation side of Kubernetes. So that's something which covers over here. Yep. Okay, so if I go to this curriculum as well, let's see if I've covered everything or there's something which is left. Scheduling, I already told you. Okay, there's something called daemon sets as well, which I forgot. So daemon sets is something which is one of the object of Kubernetes. It's like covering on what you call, let's say if you're running monitoring agents, or let's say if you're running load balancer which needs to run on every node. So that is something called daemon sets, which will run on every node. So that's daemon sets, application lifecycle management, just deployments, and another bit. In cluster maintenance, as I mentioned earlier, you should be able to back up and restore the cluster as well, like a state. When it comes to state, probably, okay, if you know, the only bit which maintains the state of the cluster is etcd. That is the database of the key value database where we maintain the state of the cluster. So cover that. And I think apart from that, I think we've covered troubleshooting and security, storage code. I think we've covered everything from the curriculum. But as I told earlier, please come and go through each point over here. Make sure you haven't missed anything from this. Let's say if you are appearing it tomorrow, please come back again over here and see, okay, do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? If you're not familiar with any of the points, please go and read it, because expect if they have mentioned that 8% will come from this, for sure there'll be 8% in that. Expect it. Yep, that's the curriculum of CKA. Here we come on to the exam now. So this is the most unique thing about this exam. This is a hands-on exam where you will run kubectl commands, you will create, deploy. So when I talk about this, it covers CKA and CKAD both. I'm not talking about only any one of the exams. So nature of exam remains same for both of them. So it's not a, don't expect it's a MCQ. Every question is hands-on. Like you run a kubectl, you do either you run an imperative command or you create a YAML, but in the end, you might be doing a deployment, services, jobs, or as I mentioned in the curriculums, you'd be configuring readiness, liveness props, or cluster creations or backup of cluster. So all the things which are covered in curriculum is part of this nature of it. In this a part of, expect this in exam, but at the end, it's a imperative command or in the YAML. You should be able to do it. It's not that you have read the theoretical knowledge and you can go and appear for it. No, it expects you to have a hands-on. Like in most of the exams, if you have seen another certifications, I see they say that they expect you to have a hands-on experience, but in the end they go with the MCQ. But over here they expect you to go and do some cluster part. Like you have to do that hands-on. Yeah. This is one bit which I created, kubectl cheat sheet. There's a link as well where a lot of other commands are as well present. But these are the main commands which I found that was really helpful for me. Like if you want to go to the whole sheet, you should go here. But like few commands which I was really was helping me in each of the questions is these. Like let's say if somebody is asking me to create a pod, either I go and create a YAML. It'll take me some time. I will not say that. So this imperative command which will actually help me to create that. If you see this command will take me 10, 15, 20 seconds to do it, but my pod is created. But if I go via YAML, expect some minutes. Time management is important. So please go through the imperative commands. And if you want to change something in the pod if you want to create a template, this dry run and hyphen output YAML, ensure that you're running it, because it'll give you the whole output, and then probably you can have it in the YAML file itself instead of you copy pasting it from somewhere you're creating it. So be familiar with these commands like pod creation, deployment. There's an interesting thing if you see over here that pod creation is kubectl run app, this thing only. And if you go to the job creation, I'm just changing the restart policy on failure. I have the job now. And if I want a cron job, I just go and have a hyphen schedule and just add it over here. Before appearing for the exam, I wasn't aware, when I went to this cheat sheet, I wasn't aware that I can create jobs or cron jobs in a very simple fashion in this. If you want to create a complex jobs or cron jobs, which they'll expect you in the exam, so I'll run it -o YAML and dry run. So please try to run imperative commands as much as possible. Don't go for YAML for everything. Just go for YAML in the end if you think that it can't be achieved by a comparative command. One more thing, don't think that you need to learn all these commands. Like, let's say if you're doing a hands-on, it'll become muscle memory for you. But one thing which will come in the next page itself over here is that this cheat sheet, that the whole Kubernetes.io is accessible. So while you're giving the exam, it's accessible. You'll have two tabs open. One is where you have your exam tab, and another one is your Kubernetes.io or the GitHub of Kubernetes. So there's a couple of three links which in that, but I found this Kubernetes.io is really useful. Just make sure you're not opening a third tab, because sometimes it can take you to an external website. So don't go via that, but just be familiar that, okay, if somebody comes and asks you that you need to create a pod, I'll simply go over here. And if I search for a pod, the very first link, it will take me to that page. And as I can see that, these are the bits about it. And if I go to that particular, where if I search for kind, so if you see over here, I can easily see those YAMLs over here. I can directly copy these YAMLs and paste it into my terminals. So be familiar with all the examples over here. Whatever, let's say if I'm going for jobs, so his examples is already there. If you're lucky, you can get a same question, and the answer must be lying on this side itself. So if you're facing any issue, or if you think that I don't know this topic, or if I'm not able, I don't remember the syntax or what was the command and all those bits, so come over here and look for it. Find it over here. You can find at least a reference of it, or the network policies, because these are the few bits where I used to come again and again and copy the syntax, because network policies is something which will take time for me to build a whole YAML. If you see, if I'm gonna type this, or there'll be syntax problem and all those issues will come, because YAML in the end you don't have so you'll have to use VI editor. Yeah. So few exam tips. I think I covered a lot of it, but still I'll go through these. One of the most important step I would say is, on top of each question, there's a context of cluster which is given. So make sure you copy that command and run before every question, because it might be possible that you have achieved that operation, but it's not for that cluster. So expect there's a context command given on top of each question. Please run it. So that's expected. Finish the easy one first. So in CKAD, expect 24. Okay, I think it was the other way around. In CKA, okay, there's a small bit which I'll simply straightforward change. Apologies for that. Yeah. In CKA, expect to 3 hours, 24 questions, but in CKAD, 2 hours, 19 questions. So time management is key over here. So please see if you're spending too much time on a question which holds only 3% or 4%, because there's a percentage given on top of each question as well. Go and finish other ones first, or the easy ones. Don't stuck on any question. So time management is really important. Given 19 questions, 2 hours, it means 5-10 minutes at max is to each question, 5-6 minutes I guess to each question. So please go and finish the easy ones and the ones which holds the most of the percentage, because for CKAD I think it was 66%, and for CKA I guess it was 72% if I remember correctly. So the passing percentage is those. So make sure you cover those, and then you go and attempt more questions. As I mentioned earlier, don't spend much time on YAMLs. Use imperative commands. It's really handy. Believe me, if I'm going for a YAML and versus I'm going for imperative command, the question to take me minutes could be finished in seconds. And again, familiar with Kubernetes.io or the VI or the Vim editor, like insert, copy, paste, replace, delete, these commands. This is one of the reference which I added for Vim editor if you're not familiar with it. Like if I want to jump to the end of the file, or if I want to jump to the last line, the line, or want to replace something. So just go through that cheat sheet if you want to go for the Vim editor tips, but be familiar with it, because in the end you have Vim editor over here. Nothing, you do not have a Goyal or any Visual Code Studio or like that. And JSON path questions usually easy. You expect it in the CKA exam. Sometimes we spend a lot of time finding the whole JSON command, but it could be that a question is so easy that you can easily create that itself over here. You can manually create that in the file. Don't expect JSON path questions to be a lot more difficult. It's easy one. You can find it on the Kubernetes.io as well. These are my exam teams, which like I'd read it somewhere. Somebody says that please create an alias for kubectl or do this, do this. To be honest, didn't help me at all. These are the only bits which I focused and it helped me. Like CKAD, if I tell you from my experience, it was 2 hours. I was able to complete it in 1 hour 30 minutes. And for the CK, like again 1 hour 30 minutes. So if you're really familiar with Kubernetes, straight away bang on. This exam is for you. Don't think that you can't do it, because they expect you to have that knowledge and you had hands-on. That's all. And a few last points about certifications is something. So cost of the exam is $300. But luckily, I would say that tomorrow, 31st May is the last date. Currently, given in coronavirus, every like Google had given their free certificate training material. So same way CNCF had given some voucher, which is anywhere 30 right now, is a current discount voucher code, which gives you 30% discount. So in the end, it's costing you $210. I would say it's worth spending it on your career. Please go ahead and do it. One bit, the unique bit about this is don't it's that voucher code is valid for 1 year. You can schedule exam anytime in 1 year, and you have 2 attempts in that. Let's say, unfortunately, if you're not clear in the first attempt itself, you can still use the same, as in the same. You can again reschedule it without paying any extra fee. So in $210, you're getting 2 attempts, to be honest, which I think is a fair deal. If you think that you can't clear it to the first, you can still go and appear for the second one. And once the exam is done, don't expect the results straight away. It will take 32 hours at least. They will say it's 48 hours, but and for both of the exams, I got it on within 32 hours. Like after 32 hours, exact to be precise. So expect that result over here. And yep, pretty much. And one more thing which I have is my study resources, which probably if somebody thinks that if I have to start from scratch, how do I do it? Or kind of those, if you want to refer it. So there's a Udemy courses for CKA and CKAD by Mumshad, which has a very good hands-on lab on Code Cloud. So it's not about only theory. He has labs as well where you go and configure the deployments to it again and again. If somebody like he has running clusters over there, or he has a questions where he'll ask you to create clusters. So if somebody think that I don't have a Kubernetes cluster or something, or if I'm finding it difficult from where to start, please start with this courses. And one thing which I did before appearing any of the exam, I did this as my final exercise to validate my knowledge. Like whether for CKAD, there's some questions in that, like very normal questions, like I'll say a mock test. Like somebody had given you out of, like you say, I've completed everything. Please ask me a few questions to revise myself. So I just did this final exercises to revise all the resources what I had done. In Kubernetes.io, again, there's a place where you should be looking. Please go through this documentation again and again. If you're facing any issue, before you jump to Stack Overflow or GitHub, jump to Kubernetes.io and see if you can find over there. If not, then only jump to other forums and do it. Yep. I think that's pretty much. Thank you. Probably any questions now?
Yeah. Thanks, Nischay, for sharing that much wonderful insight. Even like I was not even aware. I am pretty much new into the Kubernetes learning and exploration, but yeah, very special. The one tip which I found around, we can use that Kubernetes.io to figure out the what kind of imperative syntax for the command. Very helpful.
Yeah.
So I found a couple of questions. Let's go one by one. And
Yeah.
so there is a question that do we need to know about Kubernetes the hard way for CKA certification? Like I mean, it is compulsory for the certification or good to know? So what's your thought on that?
Okay. My thought is it's good to know. It's not that compulsory should be knowing, but if you're not going via hard way, please go through any other documentation which explains the whole architecture. The only reason why I said the hard way, because it gives you a view that how the Kubernetes components coming together. So that's why it's good to have that to understand this is the rule of etcd, this is the rule of container runtime, or this is the rule of kubelet or kubeproxy. So good to know all those bits before you, because otherwise you'll be in an ocean and don't know where to see that. There's my answer. So please go through it.
Really, just to add here, even guys, I also use the same, like it is open source or pasted, what I can say, put by Kelsey Hightower. I'm an admin guy, I'm a non-developer person, but it is something more if you really know to internal skeleton, if you want to see that how the cluster is talking, or maybe one node is talking with the another node, especially security mechanism, you need to know that how you are going to create the private certificate, or even it's not don't need to be registered by some central authority, but how the certificates will be registered and how the communication will happen on the secure channel. So if time permits, sure, I started in that way only because the very good documentation is given on the GitHub repository, all the step by step and component. It is specific to GKE, but if you really understand the administration work, you can build your own Linux VM and try to play. A little bit tweak is required.
Yep.
Okay, so Nischay, another question. Does killer.sh gives good practice for CKA and CKAD? Had anyone tried it? So, any idea about the killer.sh?
Yeah, I heard about it, but to be honest, I heard once I cleared my certifications
Okay.
because I think it was Kim who's the, I guess, founder of that project. I didn't try it, but the review which I usually see, everybody says you should go and try it. But I didn't get a chance to try that bit, to be honest.
Okay, okay. Next question is that I know a good basics of Kubernetes services components, but I want some practical task on Kubernetes so that it would increase my confidence. Is there any stuff for doing this? Like, what do you suggest? Like, how a person need to understand apart from watching some tutorials, what he or she can do
Yeah.
for building more confidence?
Yeah. Uh, Probably how I would suggest is the couple of ways to do it. Let's say if you're already working in a team, and try to see if you can you just go to GitHub and see some container images which are already there, like a 2 tier or 3 tier application, and try to deploy it on Kubernetes. Like try to figure out, okay, these are the three components of my application, and no, let's say front end, back end, and a API layer, or let's say like that. Try to deploy it on Kubernetes via various services or objects. Try to create it yourself. Don't go via any reference, because when you do it without watching any tutorial, you'll probably try to think, okay, this is one resource. I need this object. I need this object. So various objects coming together, then only you can do it. That's one way of doing it. Another way, if let's say if you're going to on Code Cloud, there are labs over there where there are some they expect you to do some tasks, and those tasks like expected that in real world as well you will get that similar tasks. But that's another way of doing it. So it depends on you that which access you have. Like I was working in a team where we were using Kubernetes, so I got a chance to deploy my application on Kubernetes itself over there. So that's how I done it.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing. Just to again add here, see, learning something is something that you need to put the effort. Watching a tutorial is a one thing. I have done also this, and I share such kind of thing. It's not only about a one technology, be it any platform, any something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so just to add, maybe pick something for you, make some hobby project. I can tell you that most of the people don't have their own portfolio. Make something like, if you know the programming language, make that, make a containerized, try to host it, and then you will get your idea that, because whether we talk about a 2 tier or 3 tier, whether it run at a production scale or maybe a small scale, logics are same. Maybe you need to know you need to configure the nitty gritty things, understand about. So I always suggest, like, how I started, like, the WordPress, simple. I don't know coding, I don't want to do, but a WordPress is a lifesaver for me. It's my personal experience I'm sharing. That can you try to do the WordPress and then check the scalability of pod, where how you can put the things as a stateless, put maybe their database on a different tier, and then the DNS will be out from their ingress controller. Try to do some load testing. You will get lot of learning, and don't only work on these tutorials and following the step by step, because those are the proven one. You will not get the error or to the room of troubleshooting. Until unless, guys, you will not troubleshoot, things will not clear. The quickly we all will fail while configuring, the quickly we will be able to figure out that how to solve this problem, what kind of workaround is there. It's something like I always would like to share. And thanks, Nischay, you also covered that point very well.
Yeah.
So
Thank
let's
you.
go to the another. Okay, just quick thing. Yeah, recording will be published. I will share my channel link in the chat. Please subscribe to the channel, and the recording most probably will be published by tonight, or maybe let's wait in another 24 hours. This recording will be published. Okay. So another question is, so which is better, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service or Amazon ECS, in respective of microservice architecture? Very good question. So yeah.
I think the question mainly about is which cloud provider you're talking and which managed Kubernetes service is the best, if you're asking me. In my personal experience, I think given Kubernetes was originally from idea which Google was running on from the Borg project. So I'm not saying the others are not good, but if I compare it, I say the latest features and all the things will be in Google, which you'll get first in the Google Kubernetes engine. So I would say that if you are on, let's say if you're on any other cloud provider as well, I don't say they are not good. They're also having the feature, but let's say if you want to access any feature at a very first place or any native thing, so I would say Google one is the good over here.
Okay, just to again add here because it's very near to my heart. It's like
Yes,
more
I was
into
expecting
the
you, Jack, to answer this, to be
AWS.
honest.
So guys, try to understand the thing, the reinventing the wheel and utilizing the already proven. Just to give you a history, ECS came in 2014. At that time, if you know about when Kubernetes came, you have your answer. So ECS is something that again very clubbed and closed with AWS ecosystem, and it only support a one runtime, which is a Docker runtime. Now coming to the Kubernetes, we see from the last 3 to 5 years that how the industry is changing, how the Kubernetes become more and more mature, and AWS come up with their own managed version of EKS. ECS is something, again, if you are really looking for very closed integration out of the box with AWS services, but not with the outside ecosystem, let's say again the Kubernetes ecosystem, maybe that can be a good fit. But if you're looking to run different runtime like Rocket or Containerd, or maybe you are looking to use more into the CNCF project or the integration, I believe ECS is the de facto then, because otherwise in EKS will be the de facto. In ECS, you need to configure a lot of things, or maybe again lot of extra work need to be there. But EKS as a Kubernetes, little bit tweak obviously there will be required, but I believe because it's from the same ecosystem, things will be much better. It's purely a decision from a requirement perspective. Yeah, cost implication can be there, that you need to decide like what your budget and pocket allow. According to that, any cloud service can be chosen. ECS came first in the market where the Kubernetes was not. At that time, Google release, I believe I watched that event in somewhere July or November 2014, somewhere. So that was not at that time, but ECS covered the AWS ecosystem very well. Okay, so
Thank you, Chirag, for this answer. Thank you. I was really expecting you to answer that question at the first place itself.
Thanks. Yeah, that is where like we all are. So another is there any way to voucher to get the discount? So I believe Nischay shared the slide also, and I put that voucher code in the chat. You can purchase the exam today because the voucher is valid till tomorrow. But the exam can be scheduled from, let's say, from the next year, 30th May or 31st May, as it comes with a validity.
Yeah. You can purchase the voucher, but you can schedule it any time after that. I'll probably upload the slide as well, and we'll share the link in the chat itself, Chirag, in the meantime.
Sure. Okay. Okay. What happens if there is internet issue while doing the certification? Can we join the test again, or should we reschedule? Very awesome question.
Don't reschedule. So when you're doing it, like it's an online proctor exam, so there'll be somebody who will be there to help you over there if you face any issues. So don't be scared. Like, because I had my internet 2 to 3 times where my internet was down. I got connected again as soon as my internet came up, and the proctor will again like resume the exam from there. You'll not lose any time over there. Don't be worried about that bit.
Okay, so can you please share any way we can do a practice again, guys? It's all about, like, I am simply saying you build your own portfolio, even a WordPress or whatever the programming language, or make sure you follow the microservice architecture. Just search about, there are endless blogs and endless things are there. Practice from your side, you will get a lot of visibility. It's again not about building the cluster, but how you manage, how you monitor, and how you log. How you can, what kind of scaling policy need to be applied. These are the small thing which will become, the overall journey. Okay, so I believe another question is, can we schedule exam 3 days from now? Anyone, I believe, can purchase now, but schedule depends on what kind of slots will be available.
And just to add on, Chirag, I pasted the link of the slide as well in the chat. If somebody wants access to that slide, please go and download from there, and let me know if you face any issues as well.
Sure. Okay, another quite interesting question. Studying or achieving Docker certified associate can help anyway in path of CKA, CKAD. Your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, so I would not say that certification of Docker will help or not. It's good to have that certification, but Docker basics, you should know it. Like, because the heart of Kubernetes, or if I would say it's underlying is they are running Docker. I would say the container runtime engines, and they are like, it's an orchestration engine, but in the end, the basics, the underlying containers are Docker. So you should know about Docker or any other container engine, I would say. So please go through it.
Okay. Yes, one question. I have a background of operations and solution architect. I am planning for first CKA. Is it will be a good idea to go directly for CKA, but I will also have a future plan to appear for CKAD as well. It will be help. It would be better, or it would be better first go for a CKAD, then go for a CKA. So, what's your take on this?
So background of operations, as you were saying, so I would say that go for CKA first because you'll be more familiar with the operation side. You'll be easily able to understand all the certificate, security, networking bit. So I would suggest you should go for CKA first and then go to CK, because both exams 30 to 40% overlap with each other. No matter which you do first, it depends on the background. So I would suggest you go for the CKA first, then go to CKD.
Okay. Okay, what is function as a service and any example scenario? So if I understand function as a service, these are the very common cloud out of the box, all those major cloud providers are giving. Just search about AWS,
Yes, serverless.
yeah, cloud function or Azure function, you will get your FAAS things and you can play and understand that how the things are going. Yes, slides will be shared, right? So we will paste the
I
link.
posted the link. I posted the link.
Okay, so the link is already posted. Maybe I will drop this link also in the video description on YouTube, right?
Sure.
Okay, do we need to study any other automation like Terraform or Ansible?
Not for the certification, I would say. I didn't feel it anywhere that you need to have Ansible or Terraform knowledge, to be honest.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Nischay. Those were the questions, and thank you everyone for joining. Just would like to share more that again, this is a community, regardless of whether you are a working professional or student. It's open to everyone. One question I have also for you, Nischay. Do you
Yeah.
do you suggest that students will proceed for any Kubernetes certification? Let's say a student or an engineering student, he or she is in second, third, or maybe final year of their graduation. Do you suggest, is there any value or benefit for this certification for our students?
Yes, Chirag, that's a really valid point. Given you're already an engineering student, yes, having Kubernetes knowledge at that point of time will really help you to get go in a very good company, to be honest. Because if you ask me, you're already working in the IT and everybody and comes and asks what is Kubernetes, have you done it? Like there's a huge demand. If you go to the statistics as well on, let's say on Google, and you can see the high graph of going Kubernetes up. So anything anyone who's expecting cloud as well, they expect you to have Kubernetes experience as well with that. At least you should be, so good to go for it. I would highly recommend that.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing your thoughts around that. It was really good to know about all these things. I am also learning, and surely I will also now. I need to also plan for the my exam. And as guys, this is a purely hands-on exam, so I suggest that really make sure you have a good hands-on practice. Watching a tutorial and passing an exam is a one thing, but doing a work in a production or maybe the actual environment is a different. Don't put yourself in that maybe you need to have a quick win but by just watching some tutorials and then run to exam, because yeah, it is our human tendency that the fresh thing will be in our memory and we will be able to do. But if really you guys or we all have a practice, our hands will be work like automatically on keyboard while typing the commands, because exams are very specific syllabus. It is getting updated maybe in a regular interval, maybe 6 to 9 months or maybe something. But we know the Kubernetes every quarter is a new version with some new ecosystem services or some kind of improvement, some kind of new feature, right? Actual that is the core. Until unless that is not in comfortable in your hands, doing exam will again not a good for long term. Again, why I'm saying, because I am also kind of a fond of certification, but it is nothing that there is, first of all, no race going on. It's in the
Yes, yeah, that's a really valid point, to be honest. That
sure.
just don't do certification for the sake of certification. Please
Yes,
be familiar with it. Like I
right.
mentioned, I was working with Kubernetes from last 2 years. Then I just came to my mind in COVID-19. Why don't I appear for that certification?
Yes. So
So please
certification
don't just
comes
do
with
it for
its
the sake
own
of certification.
value. Yes.
Yeah,
Unless you don't know where to leverage that value, it will not make sense. So make your decision according to that. What will be the right time? What will be the, your confidence around that? And then don't worry about the result that you need to pass. There is no pass, because it's a practical thing. If you're really comfortable, maybe you will be, pure 100 by 100 something. So to plan something, make your thought process and mindset around that. And
yeah,
just before wrapping up, guys, please join the community. Feel free to reach out to me and the other member of community, Abhik Banerjee, Soumyadip Mandal, and Mohammad Fazal. Just reach out any one of us if you are having idea to share. It's a whole CNCF. CNCF is a big landscape. If you have any other idea or any other thing or your experience around CNCF landscape, if you want to share, just ping me. We will again organize the meetup for you, and it is help to share, learn and share with community. So thank you again,
yeah.
everyone. The
Thank
link
you,
will be posted. Before that,
everyone.
just just typing the YouTube channel link. Please subscribe, and the video will be there. So the YouTube channel link is in chat. Please subscribe that, and see you next time. Thank you,
Yeah,
Nischay.
Chirag,
Yeah,
thank you, Chirag. Just post the meetup link again as well in the chat if somebody needs it. Let's say.
sure. Okay. Cheers.
Yep, I think that's done from our side. But thank you very much, Chirag, for giving me this opportunity. I love this, and I hope we'll speak to this community again, probably. And please come forward and do share your thoughts as well. As CNCF is a really wide, broader landscape. Please come forward and do it. Don't think you're doing it for the first time. Believe me, I was really afraid of doing all this. In the end, we are a community. We all engineers, and we know that engineers are really bad in presenting us stuff. The one who's doing the worst presentation is the one who has built the best product. Always believe that.
Yes.
Please come forward. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. And stay safe, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye, guys.